Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at this guitar right here. It's the ESP LTD EC-1000 in Granite Sparkle. And all I can say is buy it. Okay, review's done. See you later. Thanks for watching. Hold up. You aren't going to get off that easy. So when I first saw this guitar announced at the NAMM show, I just knew that I had to have it. I really like the look of the ESP E2 Eclipse in Granite Sparkle, but it's basically a full-bodied guitar, doesn't have the contoured heel, so it just really wasn't for me. So when I saw they were going to actually release it in the EC-1000 series, which I'm a big advocate for, I just knew I had to have it. Just take a look at this. Whoa, does that look pretty? That is so nice. You got it on the back as well. Just a very nice guitar overall. So now let's just run over the specs real quick to see what we're working with. So obviously this is going to be a thinner, lighter guitar than like a Les Paul standard. Has the body cut here, has the set-thru neck with that nice contoured heel that I love with all the ESP guitars. You have your TonePros bridge down here. You got your Fishman Fluence Modern pickups with 3 voicings. So the first voice is kind of your more modern sound. Your second voice is going to be kind of the organic. And then you have a third voice that's going to be the single coil sound. So then you have your standard through-way pickup selector on here. And then you have black binding around the whole guitar, fretboard and body. You got the white pinstriping kind of on there for the body. And then it's kind of hard to see, but you do have the black binding there on the fretboard, like I said. And then, of course, you got an ebony fretboard. You have your LTD locking tuners. And then this also comes with 24 stainless steel extra jumbo frets, which is awesome. And then you have the most controversial thing on here, just a molded nut that isn't like bone or tusk or anything. And then it is an all poly finish as well, but it's done very nice. And it has an asymmetrical thin taper neck, which, you know, I really love. And has a 13.78 fretboard radius to go along with it as well. And now this does have a poly finish, you know, front and back and on the neck there. But it does feel pretty good. Obviously, it's not going to feel like a Gibson Nitro finish, but it really does come down to personal preference. I like satin finishes, I like nitro finishes, and, you know, sometimes I like a good poly finish. So next, let's just kind of get some sounds out of the way. I just kind of riffed a few chords and just kind of noodled over it so you can get an idea of how it kind of sounds. Again, not going to be a master class in shredding or anything, but you'll get the idea. Wow, wasn't that great? I hope that was helpful. So now, I wasn't really kidding though about buying this guitar, but let's kind of go over some shortcomings or some things people don't like about it. First, people are going to complain about the price. They're going to say, hey, the LTDs have been creeping up. But if you kind of look back actually over the past few years of the LTD EC-1000 series, they kind of haven't. Base prices have been at $1099 and they're still there, but you do have some now going up to the $1599 range. Now, if you look back kind of a few years over, let's say the E2 Eclipses, which are supposed to be the step up over this, they went up quite significantly. I think when I looked from like the 22, 23 models to 24, some went up anywhere from like 15 to 25%. So I mean, even with inflation, these have kind of held their own. So this guitar here is a $1499 model. But a thing to note is if you are buying a new guitar, you should never pay full retail for it. At a minimum, you should be able to get 10% off, if not more. So I ended up picking this guy up, brand new 2026 model. As far as I know, not really out at a lot of retailers yet, for $1350 with tax. And I think that is pretty fair for all the great specs you get in here too. And then another thing is going to be obviously the molded nut. And I kind of do agree for what you're paying for. It's just a molded stock nut. But again, I don't care enough to go get it replaced. If I started getting like weird tuning, you know, stability issues, something like that. And then just one more thing that people really like to bring up too is like where it's built, right? If you get a Korean made LTD, you know you're in good hands. They're basically made in like the WMI factory. And from what I was reading online is actually regarded higher than like the Court Factory that everyone's oozing about on the internet nowadays. So going, oh man, you're not going to get a good quality guitar, you know, I call shenanigans on that. And then if you're looking at your next tier up, the E2 series, right, they're made in Japan. But when I was doing some research on that, just to go, well, what's really the big difference? Why can they command such a high price? You know, people are like, well, you know, they're handcrafted in Japan and all that. Actually, they aren't handcrafted. They actually go through machines as well. Maybe doing some filing on the frets and maybe putting on some binding or something. Sure, there's going to be some, you know, handcrafting there. But as far as like the actual like shape and the neck and all that, this stuff is going to go through a machine. How much better could something get? And then, you know, people go, well, the E2s get like a better selection of wood. And then you have the whole tone wood debate. And now, don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on the E2s. As someone who's owned, you know, multiple E2s, they definitely feel great, and they're great playing guitars. But they almost serve kind of a different purpose too, right? Because these actually have the 24 frets, where a lot of the E2s, at least when we're comparing the Eclipses, you know, they're keeping it more traditional, kind of like the Les Paul standards and things like that over there. So this is kind of honestly more of like a modern guitar than even the E2s, because you get those 24 frets and you do get the bigger fretboard radius, which is wider. That's geared more towards, you know, kind of more shreddy and, you know, rifting type things on it. And like I said, this is just a great playing guitar. It sounds good. It fits in my hand like a glove. And I really just think it really exceeded my expectations. And if you watch this channel, you know I did a lot of videos with the EC-1000 TCTM, where, you know, I kind of said, hey, it's a good alternative to like a Les Paul Standard or even like a Supreme or a Modern, just because it, you know, had contoured heels and all that good stuff. But the one thing I didn't like about those, that I really like about this one, is actually the neck. Because I feel on those ones, and I'm going to kind of blanket statement for probably all the T and CTMs, is, I don't know, the binding on it just was, I don't know, just kind of felt thick to me, or it wasn't rounded. So when I played one of those, like, it was always just kind of off in the width, even though it measures kind of the same. Like, if I switched between guitars and went back to it, I could definitely kind of feel it and notice, and some things would just feel off when playing. But this guy, like I said, just fits like a glove. So now I can go between like the Gibson and some Fenders and, you know, the different guitars that I have, and it just works. And that's what I really like about this. And again, it's just beautiful. Beautiful, it's light, and it's definitely springing up to being one of my favorite guitars, if not my favorite guitar, that I'm just gonna play and play and play. So I am a big advocate for the EC-1000 series. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. Now if you're thinking, you know, oh, $14.99 retail is too high for this, there's definitely a big used market as well too. So if you want a different finish, or you just want to kind of get into this lineup, you know, check out like Reverb, right? I see some of these starting at like $700, which is a crazy price for what you get in them. The one thing that I would mention though, make sure you do a 2021 or later, because that's when stainless steel frets became standard. But if you are looking for this one in particular, you will not be disappointed, I promise you. Or you can take it back to where you bought it to get your money back, guarantee. So anyways, like always, thanks for watching. Go ahead, check the description for, you know, all my social stuff, my music, my websites, and all that fun stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Later.